Confirmed. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. And we'll probably have a few other folks trickling in. Some folks let me know that they'll be in later or have to hop off early. So we'll have a little bit of a flow here. But thanks for joining us for the first CSA Farmer to Farmer Roundtable. I think this has been in the works for many months and it's coming to fruition. So we're really excited to see everyone get together and kind of just shoot around ideas and talk about the things that are on your mind. It's a really opportune time to do it because I think from what I've heard, everyone's kind of knee deep in planning and trying to just think about what's going to happen for this year. So really excited to hear everyone's thoughts. And when folks registered, there were some really great questions that people were kind of sitting with, things that they wanted to explore. So it'll be a really great space to do that. I think we're gonna go ahead and get started with a couple of short presentations from Nathan and Holly, and I'll let them introduce themselves and their farms. But I thought it'd be a good way to just kind of set the scene for kind of how they're doing their CSA models, which has been really effective. They've had a lot of success, and I know they've had a lot of challenges, and that's also a good place to learn from. So I'll let them kind of speak on their CSA models and what they're kind of sitting with for this year, what they're thinking on and topics they'd like to explore. And then we can kind of open it up to the whole group, what you all are working with for the year. So Nathan, if you want to start.
Certainly. Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Vannette from Growing Green Family Farms. We're based out of upstate South Carolina and have 3 farm locations, one in Travelers Rest, one in West Greenville, and one in Anderson, which definitely has complexities of its own nature there, but it's been working out thus far, so we're very thankful for that. With CSAs in particular, it's interesting because prior to COVID in particular, we were not a CSA farm. And it's one of those things that just dropped into our laps.
We are muted, right? Yes.
Yep. So it was very unique how it happened because restaurant sales, that's what 70% of our sales were, and that bottom just dropped out. But it was really neat to see the community pull together, and it was hard because we didn't have a lot of experience with CSA, but thankfully we had diversity of crops because of the restaurant base that we were dealing with already. But there's definitely logistics with the CSA program that presented itself as we were new at that time, but it's been incredible since then, both to see the retention rate that we've been able to have, but then also the growth as time has gone on. For the 22 season, we have made a couple of adjustments. Last year, we were doing some home deliveries, and we did that during COVID as well. And a lot of our customers appreciated that value added. But as a farmer, that is a hard time to invest on the road. So here in the upstate area, and I think it covers like Buncombe County, maybe a couple of other counties in North Carolina, Market Wagon can do some parcel drops. So what we have ended up doing is integrating our CSA program into that program so that they can just do that delivery for us, which has broadened the area that our CSA can cover, while decreasing the amount of time that we have on the road. Targeted marketing is another thing that we're going to be focusing on. Email lists are definitely the most effective just in terms of trying to get people on that list, whether it's from farmers markets, especially since here we grow year round. So we carry actually a winter CSA all throughout the winter. It's definitely challenging this year because we've had harder winter weather, but it helps with that retention rate we found just in terms of going from that fall to the spring and having a bridge season. So, but for target marketing, one thing that we've done is just designing a simple template like this. This is just a rack card that you can do from, I think we got this from Vistaprint. A little bit about yourself, the fundamental things of what makes yourself unique. So for us, it's sustainable, regenerative, and pesticide-free. Then on the back side, we just put some QR codes to make it as easy and functional for our customers to be able to find and access those CSAs in particular. This is something if you have like different neighborhood associations that you know of, just reach out to them because the more you can get consolidated and localized CSA deliveries, the more efficient and effective your time is then. The hard thing is target marketing in this particular instance, but for this, we've been able to just see what the general area around us, like Travelers Rest, for instance, in the upstate, is very foodie in nature. So that just provides a geographic region to try to hone in where we're target marketing for that particular instance. So I think that's us in a nutshell pertaining to CSAs. We are still doing restaurant deliveries as well as to farmers markets, but the CSA program, we see that as being a good anchor, especially right now when things are tight, and having that seed money in particular, no pun intended, is very helpful to invest in, whether it's your grafted tomatoes to carry you throughout the season or the other seeds that you need to purchase now, especially since a lot of seed companies almost have like I think it's more people are purchasing. It's not necessarily seed scarcity, but it's quite fascinating just to see how fast some certain varieties of seeds are running out. And Holly, we are farming on, let's see, Travelers Rest, we have 3 acres. We have a ½ acre in West Greenville and then 2.5 acres over in Anderson. And this is all no-till production and without a tractor, which is very challenging, but it has enabled us to figure out ways to really lean and hone in our farm to specific tools that work well for us. The distance from the locations, Anderson is 50 minutes apart from Travelers Rest. Those are the 2 locations that are furthest apart. And West Greenville is about 10 minutes closer to Anderson and 10 minutes apart from Travelers Rest. So right now we're dealing with, that's one interesting thing, because we have some online farmers markets that we have been doing some CSA marketing to. So with those alone, we've been at 15 shares through the winter, and on top of our traditional shares that we market ourselves. That's more of a subscription that we don't have to worry about the infrastructure, in particular Market Wagon, but then also the Clemson Area Food Exchange. They take care of more of the far western upstate area. And then our other CSAs, right now we have 30 members, but we'll be boosting that to about 100 members during the summer season.
Thanks, Nathan. And with Market Wagon, I'm pretty new to Market Wagon as a thing. And I know they have it in Nashville, Knoxville area in the upstate. Do they charge you, like, what is the administrative process with that? And do they charge you all a fee? How are you working with them?
So they do charge a fee, but it ends up being about $10 per delivery drop-off location. Now, if you have multiple locations in one neighborhood, they do reduce that fee because the fee is based off of a parcel size, which one bag, it's 3 bags and it's equivalent to about 3 CSAs. So what we have tried to be, or takes a little bit more coordination, but if you can figure out a customer that's centrally located for a couple of people, they can then distribute that delivery fee amongst them for the cost of just that one $10 fee. So for most people, though, it's not that much of a concern because they're getting so much value with not having to go out, especially since a lot of people in these rural areas where we were delivering now can just have it delivered to their doorstep rather than having to come to our farms. We do have on-farm location pickup for CSAs as well as at the 2 farmers markets, which does offer a lot more convenience. And that's one challenging thing, is trying to figure out how to offer convenience. For a lot of customers, that's a hurdle for them if they have to go too far out of their way. But that's where one thing we're also trying to incorporate as time goes on is on-farm experiences, whether it's a U-pick during the strawberry season, or we have some chicken flocks, something that they can interact with. Ideally, we'd also have sheep or goat, something that's a smaller mammal that they can like get in amongst. Challenging thing is you do have more liability, but the more people you have coming to your farm, you can then have the potential of not only selling that CSA share, but also the experience and other items as well.
Cool. Any other questions for Nathan? Is anyone else using a third-party delivery service or some other like aggregator?
Yeah, we use Market Wagon as well. I think we were the first farm to actually go through their CSA delivery with them. And the way we do it is we pay a commission fee rather than the parcel drop. So I was kind of curious what the difference would be. They do 30% is what our rate is, plus the customer pays the delivery. So I don't know if that would work out better on the parcel side or as a percentage of the sales.
And how we've tried to like combat, like the big thing about CSA is having money up front, like he was talking about, to cover your seed costs and stuff. And so how we've done that is we just charge like a deposit fee. Basically, they go on our website and they pay a deposit fee to save their spot in the program. And then the actual CSA price is just divided over the 10 weeks. So they pay like a per week price plus their shipping through Market Wagon. And we just leave it up to them whether they pay the weekly, monthly, or annual rate for their shipping on Market Wagon.
Great. Thanks. So any other questions on that? I don't know that in the Central Mountains or even in the high country, there might be something like that. Y'all would know.
I haven't heard anything. I mean, we have a food hub. Shiloh, have you heard of anything like Market Wagon? I haven't heard of anything like that.
That's the first I've heard of it. I just wrote it down. I don't know if it exists.
Yeah, if you go on their website, you can type in your zip code and it will show up their delivery networks on there. And they reach out to producers to get them in their market, but there's also an application on there that you can fill out, I think, if you're a producer and you want to work with them. And so if you're in their delivery networks, they're a really good company to work with. We've been working with them for a little over a year now, and we really like it a lot.
So
it really expands your delivery network too.
How do you recoup your cost? So what I heard Nathan say was that the customer just is just charged and just pays the delivery fee. But then Chelsea, I think, is that how you say your name? You're paying Market Wagon, and then the customer's also paying Market Wagon. Is that right?
You price your own product on Market Wagon, and if you pack bags at their centralized warehouse, it's 25%, or for an extra 5%, you just take and drop off bins and they pack it. So we just marked all of our products up 25%, 30%, whatever we would typically sell it for, and just pass that cost on.
Cool.
Pertaining to the parcel drop, that is more of people who don't necessarily want to pay the extra 30%, but would prefer that consistency of that just $10 delivery, especially since some of our customers like buying other things that aren't in our CSA bags, whether it's chicken eggs or value added products. They could purchase those from Market Wagon as well, but it's one of those interesting things because we do sell, as you do, Chelsea, CSAs directly through Market Wagon, but have found, I don't know, it's hard because it's somewhat of a hybrid, and the more units you have moving around, the more complicated it has been. So for the parcel drop, they actually purchase it through our website, which we use barn to door for our market platform. And then we just go through and set up the parcel drop from there.
So for you, Nathan, it's just like a delivery service, basically. Yeah, cool.
That is correct. We also sell it directly through them as well. But for some people that added 30%, they'd rather just see as I guess, a more dependent. Well, I guess they could figure it out, but I don't know. Chelsea, do you know if they can set up a subscription on Market Wagon where they buy upfront and then to get the weekly delivery, or do you just extrapolate that, like what you were saying with the deposit fee upfront, and then they just buy every week on Market Wagon?
That is something they are supposed to be working on. Originally, when we signed up, they couldn't do that. And originally, they also told us that they wouldn't be able to do just the delivery. So they must have changed that too. So that's a question I'll bring up. But they are supposed to do a subscribe feature or cater more to CSAs. I think, like I said, with the time, they'd never done it before when we first started with them. But we'd been looking at a way to ship our CSA boxes. And even with that 30%, we absorbed 10% and then passed 20% on to our customers. And it wound up being about a little bit cheaper than what we could have actually shipped it through the postal service or another service of that nature.
That is fantastic. Are you part of the Charlotte network or the one over in Asheville, or what Market Wagon group are you part of?
Knoxville and Chattanooga.
Okay, very cool.
Great. Well, we can move on to Holly if you want to give a little bit overview of yours. And then I know I have some questions I'm sitting with that maybe we can touch on after your presentation and get into those after that.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. I have a couple of slides. It's easier for me to use that. So I'm just gonna click into those real quick. Then you also can see some pictures of our farm. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, so we're from Against the Grain. We're a small farm in Zionville, which is just outside of Boone in Watauga County. And it's north of Asheville, a couple hours. And we bought our farm in 2012. And we have about 35 acres total. And we cultivate 2 acres. We also do a little bit of livestock because we are just glutton for extra work, I guess. But we have sort of an intensive bed system. This shot is like a photo of about half of our farm, and it's old. There's like a high tunnel where those caterpillars are now, and things are different. You can't see our pack shed in this photo, but this is about half of what we cultivate. And we do like a reduced tillage style. We have really heavy clay soil, but pretty intensive on the 2 acres. And our main tillage, just to kind of give you a feeling of our farm, is we have a rotary harrow. So we do some tillage and a broad fork. Those are kind of our main tillage tools. But another piece of our farming is our compost is really the foundation of our soil fertility. I mentioned our clay-based soil, and we had a pretty depleted soil resource when we bought the farm. So this has really helped us fuel this intensive vegetable, intensive bed production that we do. This is just a shot of our family because I definitely do not do it by myself. This photo is about a year old, just after we had our 3rd. And yeah, it's definitely a family dynamic that happens on the farm and in the house and all around and at the market, but it's pretty great and wouldn't have it any other way. And CSA, community supported agriculture, we really value that piece of what we do, and really try to cultivate community both on the farm with the crew every season, and sort of surrounding the farm with farm friends and neighbors, and also just really getting CSA members involved as much as we can on the farm. And of course, I'm sure everybody out there can understand like what COVID has sort of done to that, some of those dynamics, but also like having the CSA and having those connections through COVID has been really great. I mean, not only like as a financial back for the farm, but also just for those kind of social networks and like community resiliency, I think has been pretty great. So yeah, we started our veggie CSA, let's see, in 2016 with 10 shares because we were kind of afraid that we were going to mess up. And let's see, in 2021, we had 115 members, and I think we're really not trying to do many more than 100, like 115 to 120. That feels like a good place to be. We do regular and large shares, 2 different sizes. We offer just really simple meat add-ons because we do produce some meat on the farm. We just offer ground beef and pork sausage add-ons. Really simple because we just don't want to create too many moving parts for ourselves. Because in addition to the CSA, we also do a weekly Saturday farmers market. We sell to some restaurants locally. We sell to a local food hub, and we also do some other small wholesaling. The CSA is about 25% of our gross. So, it's not, it's significant, but it's not the majority. So there's other things to kind of balance. And one other thing that we do that Larissa kind of asked me to mention was we have a cost share program. which is awesome, but definitely requires marketing in a different way. So instead of marketing to try to sell your shares, we're doing small fundraisers in the spring and to try to raise funds so that we can then offer free or reduced cost shares to people in the community. And we were able to offer 10 full season shares this past year, and then 5 fall extension shares and 2 winter shares. This is the first year we've ever done a winter share. And I should back up and say our regular season is 20 weeks on the CSA. We do a fall extension of 4 weeks. And so that number, I think we did like 50 shares in our fall extension. And then this is the first year we've done a winter share. It's just really a pilot. And we did 30 shares. So the cost share is really awesome, but does require, like I said, kind of like a different amount of marketing or a different sort of energy output on the side of the farm, and that is like raising those funds. But finding the cost share members is not challenging, and it's forged some like really great relationships for the farm. So yeah, that's just a little side thing. But we did, let's see, in 2020, we invested in Harvey software, and I'm really excited that is Shiloh still on the call? Looks like she's walked away, but their farm also uses Harvey. Hey! And so I'm hoping, I'd love to hear some more from her, but we invested in this software a couple of years ago. And the premise of Harvey is like, okay, this idea that the CSA market channel isn't really a sustainable market channel when you, even for farms that have 75-80% retention rates, which are, you know, pretty high retention rates. The premise is that that's still not a sustainable market channel if you're having to re-recruit, you know, 25, 20, and sometimes more than that members every season for a market channel that already requires potentially, arguably, right, more effort on the part of the farm, whether or not that's member communication, you know, extra packing and handling of product, that extra marketing. It does give us that preseason cash flow, which is so invaluable on a small farm, right? And we all know that's why we're here. But the premise behind Harvey is to reduce that turnover. I am so curious to hear from Shiloh, because I feel like we haven't, the verdict's still out for us, so we haven't sold all our CSA shares for 2022 yet. So this will be our 3rd season with Harvey, and I'm really curious to pull the numbers and see what our retention rates have really been, and have they changed from what they were before. So I'll just talk a little bit about Harvey, and Shiloh, I don't know, it's probably hard for you on your phone to like chime in with a chat box, but if you want to chime in at any point, yeah, welcome you to unmute yourself or whatever. But so basically, members set their preferences of each vegetable that the farm says they grow at the beginning of the season or when they join your CSA. And then each week that we have the CSA, the farm inputs their inventory of what they have. The Harvey software builds a base box. And then there's a customization period once the farm launches the share, and members are able to make swaps and add extras. And then within Harvey, there's labels generated. And then we pack them in ASAP wax boxes with Uline box liners, and we take them to drop sites. And we have like one drop site where we hang out and wait for members for about an hour. And all our other drop sites are drop and go, whether or not it's at the food hub or the farm cafe in downtown Boone, or here on the farm in the walk-in cooler. So yeah. And here's just a little shot of Harvey. So like if a member has tomatoes in their box, they can use that little button to swap. They can add more by pressing the plus. They can take it away by putting the minus, or they can change the little smiley face to happier or sadder if they want the product more or less, right? So that's just like a little insight into it. Or they can add extras. So here's a shot of one of our extras pages where, so like, for example, if we input that we have 50 bunches of salad turnips, but the algorithm only puts 35 in people's boxes, then there's an extra 15 floating around that members can add extras. And then we just pack the boxes. So when I was putting in this picture, I was like, wow, that looks like chaos. But you can see close to the bottom of the picture, that's the boxes with the labels. And we put the boxes together, and then one crew member carries the box down the line and puts the items in the boxes, and then they get stacked up on the table at the end of the line. And so we do all that on farm. We sort of dream of farmers market style pickups to reduce this step, and just haven't tried to make the switch yet, for a lot of different reasons. But some of the other Harvey features that Harvey offers, and this is really not a Harvey plug, I'm going to get into like the downsides. I'm not trying to sell anybody software, I'm just saying sort of what we have come to. They offer this auto renew feature, where members can automatically renew. They offer payment plans for members, so the farm doesn't have to manage it, which is super positive. They offer this ability to give credits and coupons. So if you trade a partial share with your massage therapist, I'm just dreaming right now, right? But like, you can give them a coupon and they can sign up. Or if a member's not happy with their head lettuce one week, you can give them a credit. And it's sort of all contained in the system, which is nice. Members can hold and reschedule shares. They can change pickup locations if they want to. And you can offer off-farm add-ons pretty easily, like coffee, soap, cheese, right? Things like that. We have kind of steered away from that for basically logistics reasons. Like, we're just hesitant to start. I'd love to hear Shiloh and Jason's experience, because I think that they've done some more of this definitely than we have, but it is an option. And then you have the ability also to kind of do some delivery optimization if you want to run a home delivery route, which we haven't done, because we live in a pretty small community and it just doesn't feel necessary. But Shiloh, does any of this ring to you, or do you want to add anything in here?
We do a couple off-farm add-ons, but really it's like honey, which they bring to us in a big thing, or a big box full of little jars. And so it's just here on the farm. And then things that we don't want to grow, we outsource. I don't know if that's what you meant by off-farm add-ons. They're actually like distributed as part of the produce, but it says like, I don't want to grow sweet potatoes, I suck at it. So I have my friend Herbie grow them, and it says sweet potatoes from Pottle Organics. But the only like extra add-on things that we do are eggs and honey, which the eggs, I meet them every week with a standard order, and then I distribute them. I don't know if that's what you meant, but somebody asked if each share was customized. If you want to talk a little bit about it is customized every share, but it's on the label. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, each share is customized. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, hell no. There is no way that we are packing all these individual shares, but because it's all contained within the software, and then the software gives you the label, it's actually been pretty awesome, because then the farm, we don't have to grow, 100 bunches of beets to have 100 member CSA. We can be like, okay, we have 50 bunches of beets this week, and we have, 20 bunches of dill, and we have whatever. We can list what we have, and so that's allowed us on our scale and our production style, because we aren't really like row cropping and we don't necessarily grow in quantity. We're able to have like a little bit of a bigger CSA. So that's pretty great. And of course, Harvey generates a pick list, so what you need to pick. And we close our customization window on Sunday night at midnight, so we know Monday morning when we get up and we're making our pick and pack charts for the week, Like we know what we need to go ahead and start picking on Monday, so we can start the picking process Monday, and we finish Tuesday, pack boxes Tuesday afternoon, and distribute Wednesday. So that's kind of our flow.
Holly, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Would you say that that very reason is why Harvey's allowed you to go from 10 shares to 100 shares? Because that's
Yes.
one of the things that I think about. Like I've grown a lot, you know, and I'm at 25, maybe 30 shares this year, but going to 100 just seems impossible to me. But then when you present it this way, it doesn't seem that impossible. So not everybody gets the same box, but then again, they're not expecting to.
That's right. They don't, and they don't want to. And this is one of Harvey's arguments for why something like this is so essential and important. And it does speak to a bigger conversation in the CSA movement in general around, you know, the original core of what CSAs were really founded on, to support and nurture farms in the off season. And as CSAs have kind of opened up into more communities and more places on more farms, and with all different types of people, I think Harvey is kind of a response to that, like, shift for better or for worse, instead of in the direction of like, man, I'm just happy there's a farm in my neighborhood and I'll take whatever you got, you know, and I'll join every year because I believe. That is like such a small, I feel like, potentially portion of members or customers. And really, you know, what the world is moving toward, or is already there, is people wanting what they want, you know. So it helps make members feel, or it helps potentially for members to feel more satisfied. This is the theory. And I'll talk about some of the drawbacks that we've had with Harvey. And it also allows farms potentially to be more nimble, you know, which I think is the net positive. I mean, we're still using the software, so
Yeah.
the net is positive, but talk to me a different day and I'll be like totally grumbly about it.
So logistically, also, just one more question.
Yeah.
Instead of laying out your 50 boxes and then washing and packing all the carrots, instead you're probably putting all your carrots out, putting all your potatoes out, putting all your celery out, and then walking a box around to each station.
That's right. So this is like a line of our produce. Some of the coolers are on the floor on dunnage racks in this photo, and then a lot of the items are up top, like individual items that aren't normally in coolers. And then you take the box, you can see that label in the foreground. We assemble the box, we put a bag liner in it, like you see that young woman in the green bandana holding the box, and then we just put the items in. It's definitely more steps, and Harvey has now has this ability to offer like members a packing and handling fee. So we've actually started putting a packing and handling fee on top of our just membership dues. But that really honestly covers the cost of the software, because now I'm going to talk about Harvey drawbacks, and you can see that third line is the software expense. You pay $500 up front for the setup, and then you pay 7% on all your sales and 3% on all credit card fees, which most of them are, you know, most people pay with a card. Some people pay with a check still, and there's an offline check fee. I think it's like half of that maybe. So we take that 10% and we put it on top of the share as a packing and handling fee, but it's really not a packing and handling fee, it's a software fee. But we call it a packing and handling fee at the recommendation of Harvey. So yeah, I mean, really on top of that, then there should be another packing and handling fee, but you can't really pass all the cost on to the member. And for us, we think that pre-season bump, I mean, I'd love to hear how other farms deal with this, but we feel like that pre-season payment, we're packing people's vegetables for them, and that's our way to pay them back, is how we're justifying it right now. And then this quote unquote packing and handling fee that we're adding on is really this 10% that we're having to pay Harvey to handle this, if that makes sense. But it's a lot of extra handling of products. So we've been studying Ben Hartman and the Lean Farm a little bit more, and thinking about times that we touch an item. Oh boy, I mean, he wants you to touch an item 5 times at the maximum. And like that, if you really start to sit back and think about like how many times you touch something, and this is post-harvest, so this isn't even like from the greenhouse on, But if we start thinking about like our tomato harvest in a way, and like how many times we're touching the tomato before it actually gets into those CSA box, it's like, wow. So all that extra touching to pack boxes is definitely, you know, a service. And the question is just how can we pass that on to members, and how do they really see that as a value? I don't know the answer to that. But so for me, or for us, some of the drawbacks that we perceive is like dependency on software, dependency on the internet, you know, just like dependency on this online other situation that has had failures even since we've been utilizing it. And then, you know, going back to that core of the CSA, like now there's just more layers between the members and the farmers, or the members and the farm. And, you know, if members are happy, then maybe that's okay. But it's just a question, I feel like for us, we just like to revisit and we like to be aware of. And then of course, with anything, there's a learning curve. And I don't feel like I said this at the last bullet point, like there's this kind of bulkiness to the software. I wouldn't say that Harvey is super, I feel like Barn to Door is a little more like slick. Harvey's like a little bulky and like a little bit, it almost feels like I'm in the 80s or something sometimes in that software. I don't know if you feel that way, Shiloh, ever, but it feels just a little maybe counterintuitive to the way my brain works. And so, and they're always updating it. So it's like, I don't look at every software update or read every software, you know, email that comes out. I mean, I'm working and farming. So, but that definitely, things are always changing. They're always trying to improve it. But that does present challenges. And it's just one more thing for members to like wade through sometimes. You know, ultimately, the Harvey software, I mean, they're in an interesting place because just like anything, Barn to Door is probably the same way, and potentially even, let's see, I want to call it Veggie Wagon, but the delivery service that you all were talking about is that they're kind of in this funny spot between the customer or the member. I mean, they have two customers, right? They have the farms and they have the community members. And so they're trying to serve both. And that is like a hard place to be in. And sometimes I feel like I've just seen where it doesn't go in the farm's favor. And that's kind of a bummer. Because, you know, like it's hard to be a farmer. I'm not trying to complain, but you know, it's hard. So like we want people on our team and it feels sometimes like, who are y'all working for here? And then it was like a eureka for me. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. You're kind of working for all of us. So they're in a tough situation. I don't love their income reporting, which is part of why I've kind of steered away from doing a lot of add-ons, like off-farm add-ons. And then this auto renew feature, which I said is one of their features, members like automatically the auto renew is toggled on when they join CSA. And that feels a little sneaky to me. It kind of goes to that like modern marketing. I don't love that. And so we do a lot of auto renew is just like, you can set this feature that by a certain date, and the date is subjective and up to your choice. You can renew all your members who have that auto renew toggled on. And we just try to over communicate with people to really give them a heads up that that's going to happen, so they don't just get like sideswiped with a huge CSA bill when they didn't know that I joined the CSA last year and I didn't intentionally choose auto renew to auto renew for next year, but it just happened automatically. So that feels a little sneaky. But the takeaway for us time and time again is people are like, I love to be able to customize. I love to be able to swap. I love to be able to put my share on hold. I think that's great. And like I mentioned before, like we can offer more CSA shares because we can list more items in smaller quantities. So like the takeaway is we're doing it. Do we love it? Not really, but but the takeaway is we're staying with it. So that's where we're at.
Sweet, thanks, Holly.
Yeah.
And with Barn to Door, Nathan, you mentioned you were using that one. That's kind of the front load your funds, and then you kind of work your way down from however much your balance is, right?
There's a couple of different ways. There is that more subscription style format, but then you can also just put your CSA on, and there's two options. The customer can still pay week by week, and usually for that, we set a little bit of a premium on that. Or if they pay it all up front, we try to offer maybe like a 3 or 4% discount, some sort of an incentive to get that seed money up front if possible. So barn to door is challenging because the way marketing works for that is people have to go to our website. So part of that is more people we can get on our email list. If we can create a sales funnel to hopefully get people there. Signage at the farmers markets, any place where you can continue to get people to see you and see that you have that platform is helpful. Challenging thing with barn to door is managing inventory on the backside is time consuming. It'd be nice if you could like bulk input it, but each individual item you have to click and update whether is it available, is it not? And it feels a little slow at times where it might take 3 to 5 seconds to upload or update each item, which for CSAs in particular is not hard, but we do have some custom CSAs that we've been trying to format with barn to door, even though it's not formatted specifically for that. Which makes it challenging to try to balance that. But I'm fascinated about Harvey. Thank you for sharing about that, Holly. For I've not heard about that service, so that's pretty cool. So what we've tried to mitigate, because what Holly was saying, people, they like to customize things. So we have offered a custom CSA and just have like a $6 premium per share. The challenging thing is how do you navigate, especially since we don't have with barn to door the type of software program that Harvey has. What we have right now, that's just via an email that goes out to those specific customers. Takes a little bit more time, but then it does generate a label similar to what Harvey does. So we just put that on the box. And what you do as well, Holly, just you're boxing that first before we do our standard CSAs. And then you just pull from that. Challenging thing is you can't just have 50 bunches of each item on the table because some of our customers, for instance, during the tomato season, want all tomatoes to canned sauce or something like that. And then you might be shorting yourself with your other CSAs. So one thing we've tried to do to help mitigate this is almost have 2 separate days for packaging, one for your standard CSAs and one for your custom CSAs. And I don't know if you've tried to do that or Holly, or if you just do everything on one day. But I can only imagine we don't have a lot of custom shares, but when we try to like incorporate that with our standard shares, it can be a little hectic at times.
How is barn to door helping you then? If you're still having to go harvest, 50 bunches of beets for 50 boxes.
It creates a platform, a landing page, especially during the off season when we don't have the farmers market, where people can, it's basically like an online store. All of our products are listed. In terms of the CSA subscription, it notifies the customer and it creates essentially a platform where they have a start date and they know when their end date is. And then it doesn't have the auto renewal for the CSA program format, but it does send out a reminder email. Hey, if you're interested in learning about the next CSA, and then that's linked to our MailChimp email, which we try to send out to coincide with that, just in terms of what are the next highlights for the next season. This has really helped with the retention rate, both in terms of having a platform that they can easily navigate. They use Stripe for credit card processing. So one thing we like about barn to door is it only costs us, I think it's 1.75%. There's an annual fee, but that's after that, if they're using a credit card, that's the only fee on top of that. So there's no subscription fee through the service. So what barn to door is doing is creating an online presence, an online storefront.
Great, thanks y'all. And KP, what are y'all using? Were you using either one of these or were you kind of going spreadsheet?
No, yeah, we're just doing spreadsheets. Again, we don't have a ton of customers right now. We have about, I think we're going to go to 30 or 35 shares this season. And we don't allow customization, although we have a couple of customers that we just sort of know they're allergic to nightshades or they don't do that. And so we just kind of separate those boxes as we pack. but it's pretty traditional, I think, in terms of, we lay out our boxes and take this particular harvest and wash and pack them into the box, and then go to the next harvest and wash and pack them into the box. We do all of our marketing online and through MailChimp newsletter that we have. We do a lot of Instagram, and we post every picture of our share on Instagram. So people really can see what they're going to be getting, even if they're looking back from last year, a potential customer versus a current customer. And then the CSA share, or the CSA fairs that ASAP's putting on, is what we do to get new customers. We don't have great retention. I can't say that we have even gotten above 50%. Maybe this year we might be. So that is, like Holly said, it's a lot of work to get that customer back, or another customer to fill that spot. But I think what we are learning is that, we probably overpacked a little bit. Probably everybody who's done CSAs did this in the beginning. So they're too big and people feel like, this is so much food, I don't want to do it again. And so then they become market customers. They still come and shop from us and they love us, but they don't, they can't keep up with the amount of food that Share Up provides.
That's definitely one thing I'll say about Harvey, because the algorithm pays attention to the price that we set for each item. We were notorious overpackers early on because we just wanted people to be happy. And so we'd be like, we'll just value that bunch at $3 instead of $3.50, or, whatever. Or God, the box isn't very fluffy this week, or whatever. And this way, it's like, sometimes we're like, that's a really dense box, it's not a lot of loft in there, but we feel good about the fact that we're not giving our produce away. And that feels good, because it is a market channel that, like I said before, I feel like does require a lot of extra, whether it's like touches on the vegetables or just shuffling and communication and tracking and like all that. It's nice to know we're not giving things away. And so we do offer a little incentive. Instead of money off, we offer a $20 credit if members pay in full by National CSA Day. They get a $20 credit in the system, and then those credits they can use to kind of add extras as the season goes. And not everybody uses them. So it feels like instead of just giving a discount, it's a goodwill gesture, but then not all of them necessarily get used. So it doesn't, it's sort of a win-win in that way. But Shiloh, overall for you guys, are you all happy with Harvey? Like, or do you give it a thumbs up?
I give it a thumbs up.
Sweet.
Now, here's the thing. I would like to see some competition. I mean, I don't know of another customized software program. I'm probably so ingrained into Harvey now that it would be tough for me to switch, but I think they could use some competition. It's healthy, but overall, I give it a big thumbs up. Second, third, and fourth year income reporting thing, I can never figure out their income reporting thing. So our CSA, like, exact numbers got really fuzzy. Like, when you're doing it all yourself, you're like, well, I have this number of shares and this many people have paid. I know what's coming in. I know what to expect. But with Harvey, because every share, like, there's a baseline, but 5 people go on vacation and they didn't pay for that week. And, we added 16 shares with farm stand, or they added on things. And so their share was $30 instead of 27. And so there's the predictability of income stream is very, very fuzzy. And I don't know what the solution to that is. I mean, I'm glad we're selling more than we predicted, but it's hard to predict.
Yeah, I'm totally second that. So I don't know which payment plan option we use. They have a couple of options. We like the traditional Harvey payment plan, which is 25% when you sign up, 25% right before the first delivery. So the member has already paid 50% before the season ever starts, because in theory, you can put shares on hold and never reschedule them. Like you can just be like, I'm going out of town, I'm going to put that on hold. And then if they forget to reschedule, then that's, if they haven't paid for that share, then the farm just loses out. But with this form of payment plan, they've at least paid for 50% of that share. So if they don't reschedule it, it's like, well, they kind of lose out too. So like they're incentivized to make sure they reschedule it. There is a another payment plan they offer, and that's Pay X. And Pay X means however many weeks you set it as a farm. So if you say, I want them to pay for 5 weeks up front when they sign up, they'll get the first 5 weeks without getting any charge. And then after that, they'll start getting charged weekly. So, but they haven't paid for any of those shares after the first 5 weeks. So if they put one of those shares on hold or another share on hold, or if they just decide they don't like it anymore and they put all their shares on hold, then you just lost that income stream that you were kind of counting on, if that makes sense. So we stay with the 25, 25, 50, and we try to incentivize people to pay in full. And that's kind of our like workaround for that issue, or that worry of like not having people follow through. And so Shiloh mentioned something else that Harvey offers, and that is if you have a ton of extras after you've built your share, you can offer farm stand boxes for sale. So people that are on your email list within the Harvey system can just say, oh, there's a one-off box available this week. Do you want one? And they can basically customize it just like a CSA member would. We have ended up not doing that for the most part because we were worried that CSA members wouldn't get the plethora of swaps and like all the great swaps that, you know, so we haven't done that too much, but it sounds like Shiloh and those guys have. So that is a feature, like you can sell some one-off boxes if you have like an abundance, you know, of extras. So that's kind of cool.
Thanks so much, Holly and Shiloh, for sharing a little bit more about Harvey and how that's working for y'all. Any other questions? One of the questions I was sitting with, and Holly mentioned with some of your cost share options, something I'm super passionate about. So, and I've also we've been in conversations with a lot of folks who are asking about how people are managing cost share options for CSA. ASAP was for the longest time trying to figure out how to help folks accept SNAP for CSA. We've given up on it because it's just not feasible to do it in any kind of traditional CSA model, or even it's just too much of a burden, especially because what we can do is encourage folks to go to market and use their SNAP at market, and we can do double SNAP and all that. But to Holly's point of, so y'all were basically fundraising for the shares that you were going to give away or give at cause. Can Harvey, do any of these systems make it possible for members to pay it forward, to pay in more on their member share that then can go to someone else's? Definitely.
So we have that as an add-on option, and it's just a one-time add-on. When you check out, when you buy your share through Harvey, they don't have the ability for the member to like enter in what they want to donate. So we have like 25, 50, 100, and 200 or something like that. So a member can just click like, yes, I want a cost share and I want this much. And then we can just track. We also have them for sale on our website. And you can totally do that through Barn to Door. What I didn't like about Barn to Door is that it wasn't something that the member saw when they were checking out. Like it's sort of like the candy at the checkout line when you're in the grocery store, and maybe, I mean, I try not to, but right, maybe you might be like, oh, I'm just going to take that on my way out. It's kind of like that with the cost share. And so that's one of the nice things about Harvey is you go down the list, like you can pick a CSA share, then you bypass the meat add-ons, then you see like, you know, the cost share. So it's something that is like in your view as you're checking out, which is really nice. And then last year we did like gear fundraiser, and also like a little GoFundMe that a student helped us with from ASU as like their senior capstone project. So, because that's not anybody on the farm's forte. GoFundMe is like different realm.
I have one more question, Holly.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming you were doing a traditional CSA before you got Harvey. How did you teach your customers to go online, to customize and look and all of that? Because it would seem to me like, I mean, I have a hard time getting people to read an email.
Dude. Yeah, I don't know, Shiloh, like it's been a challenge, and it is still a challenge. And I think only 50% of our boxes get customized.
Okay.
It seems when I look at the stats.
So the other question I have then, so I'm assuming if you have 30 bunches of beets and you have 50 boxes, so your standard box isn't the same for everybody even. And so if that's the case, then Harvey just tells you, put Jenna's sticker on one and Holly's sticker on another, and who cares, what they get. And if they don't customize it, then they don't even know that it's different.
Well, no, here's the thing. They set their preferences at the beginning of the season. So they say, I love tomatoes and I hate arugulas. Those are those little smiley faces. So then when we input our inventory, Harvey builds the base box based on people's preferences.
For everybody. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So everybody's getting, like, in theory, a box that's sort of to their liking. But then they have the opportunity to go in there and like make swaps and add extras.
Cool. I know this wasn't supposed to be a Harvey, presentation, but it actually now, if I want to grow, it's sounding better than barn to door to me.
Potentially, I think there is a credit system on barn to door where members can buy credits, and then so they pay up front, and then you go in and list what you have every week. But like I was saying, only 50% of our people, maybe 60 on average, are actually customizing their box from week to week. And I haven't looked at the stats to say, is it the same 50-60%, or are people moving around? Whatever the case is, I would just be worried about that credit system on barn to door. Would people actually go in there and build their box to work their credits down? Or would I just be like, well, now I have to build, base boxes for, these 20, 30, 40 people potentially that didn't actually go in there and build a box for them. I mean, I would worry about that. That sounds like more work to me, but if the software is less expensive, like maybe that's a cool trade-off, or, yeah.
And if you have a base, if you have a base and you have a bunch of folks who wanted to customize that, can you keep it within not spending more money than what you've charged, or do they just add on more then?
Yeah.
And that's one question. And then the second question is, how do you get people to pay up front? You said the 20% discount. If those people pay the whole cost of your share up front, then what happens as they customize things, 6 weeks from now?
So they have a card on file typically. So when they add extras, if they've already paid in full, then they're just going to get charged for their extras that week, which might be $5 or $6.30 or whatever. And we just offer a $20 credit in the system. We don't offer a 20% discount. So that way, the first $20 worth of things that they add extra. And we feel like that's a way to sort of give back to people who are like, yes, I want to support the farm. I want to pay in full up front to really help y'all out when you need it. It's kind of like our swap box. We used to have a swap box before we did this, and we'd take it and set it out here at the farm or at our main pickup in town. And it was just a way to say thank you to members for investing in us. Like, here's a swap box. You can take extra if you want. And so this is just our version of that $20 credit.
Hey, Christy Kama.
Hey, Chris. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to chime in, or Chelsea?
Whoops, sorry. I didn't realize I was not muted.
Oh, you're all good. I think we've answered a lot of the questions folks had. I mean, yeah, KP, honestly, most people are wondering about management systems and customization anyway. Like, that is really the thing that's on folks' mind. I think the only other question that kind of came through ahead of time was about keeping up with planting successions for CSA, bed prep, and how folks, if you all have any tips or considerations about how you kind of think about your your beds and planning for the CSA seasons.
Just
No,
grow a lot.
just go all out, all of it. Yeah, plan for more.
So the way we do ours is we actually print off a calendar of what we think that we need. And I try to plant every 3 weeks on most of our crops because I found that, squash and things of that nature, you've really got 3 good weeks of production in the field. And it's easy to get behind if you miss one. So we print out a calendar of all the months through the farm season, and I put on this day plant. Of course, you're not going to be able to do it on the weather, but if I look back and say I missed whatever I missed, it's right there in front of our face, which space isn't really an issue for us. So I'm sure that would be taken into consideration elsewhere.
I feel like CSA production planning is like a huge nut to crack. I mean, we're still sort of working on it, but it's like the beauty of having Harvey and the beauty of having like several market channels gives us flexibility to move things around and funnel things to different channels depending. And yeah, if we have a crop that doesn't do well or not as well as expected, then that's the great thing about Harvey. We don't have to have 115 of everything, to make it work. So.
Great. Awesome. Any other things that folks wanted to touch base on?
I have a question about disasters, flooding, wind, where you've really kind of like, we had to stop production and restart it. So we turned off the CSA for a good month and a half after a flood, and then came back. And then we're hit with a flood after the first delivery. So we had to wait another month. So, I mean, these things are more common, I think, unfortunately, with climate change. So I'm wondering if you all, when do you say, we have to call it quits this year, and how your customers respond to that, and or if you've ever been in that position, what do you do? I know the model is, you're buying a share in the farm, and if we suffer, we all suffer. But in reality, as people have changed over time, it seems like they really expect to get, a refund or something to that effect. So I'm wondering how y'all handle that if you experienced it.
We haven't had a major disaster like that per se. Winter is definitely a hard time, especially since we do try to bridge the seasons with a winter CSA program. So from that stance, a lot of it is, if you have a low week, obviously it's hard to predict during the winter. We just try to accommodate that by maybe overpacking the boxes the following week. Risk mitigation is definitely challenging, but maybe it's part of the contract that you outline up front, maybe in your acceptance email when someone applies for your CSA program. But the challenging thing with that is we all know how many people actually read those, especially the fine print or whatnot. So I don't know, maybe just transparency. It's one of those things that we've been trying to do more with, especially on social media or whatnot, connecting with the community and letting them know of your hardships and the trials that you're going through. Is frequently you might find more outpouring of just overall support with that type of frankness.
Gosh, yeah, KP, we haven't had any like full on disasters like that. We've had wind, but it hasn't, we haven't had a total washout like a flood where we've had to like reboot or reset. But we do usually include things in the newsletter about, if we've had a crop failure for a particular reason, or which are weather related. But I was just kind of trying to put myself in your shoes in that case. And because you're right, like we say it's shared risk. I mean, that's what the model is based on. But the more we move in this kind of like Amazon type, like, construct of consuming food, right? Like Whole Foods and everything's delivered and everything's whatever, exactly what you want. It becomes more tricky to have those conversations and really have that shared risk, I mean, that's just so tricky. But yeah, I mean, I can just imagine like writing, an email and explaining and maybe offering some sort of discount or credit for future seasons, Sorry, my walkie-talkie's on. Yeah, I can imagine something like that. Or yeah, I don't know, but then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot for the next year too, if you offer some sort of discount or credit for the next year. It's tricky.
Yeah, we did offer credit for some of our customers that really got shorted because they started later in the season. But yeah, I mean, we have 25 people, so everyone did give us an outpouring of support. It was not like anyone was really upset about it. But I do worry, like when we get to the 100 CSA model, if something like that happens again, how different it might look for a large group of people versus people who we really know.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Shiloh hopped off, but I would have loved to ask her because she mentioned like that her CSA includes sweet potatoes that aren't her sweet potatoes, for example. And so I wonder how she's kind of navigating some of these like collabs with other farmers and how that could maybe play into something like that. I have no idea, but she made me think like that could be one of the ways that we all just start thinking differently, because you're right, like it's just going to start happening more often, and we have to become more resilient and kind of forward facing, expecting these things, and maybe some of those kinds of like being able to count on a network of folks in your area. But then again, in our region, everyone got flooded out. So I don't really know, how you can do it when it's a regional disaster. But it's something to think about. Anything else? And I want to also shout out Shiloh's note that Holly could get some kind of perk from Harvey if y'all get referred to it.
Oh Lordy, I'm really not trying to be a Harvey commercial. That's not my motivation here. Because when you use Harvey, you'll be like, oh, she didn't tell me about all this stuff.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like to Shiloh's point, unfortunately, there's not the competition to be able to even shop around, right? So we all kind of get stuck with it. Well, if y'all have anything else you want to share or things that you're sitting with, I know we caught most of what was on folks' minds. A lot of it, again, was like management and customization. But yeah, anything else? Thank you so much, Nathan and Holly. And I know just even sharing your process and your model, like, is so many like flags go off for me of just efficiency and thinking about how you're navigating and planning. So thanks so much.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an opportunity for another one, but I'd love to hear like from somebody like Shiloh even about how they production plan. That would be a cool farmer roundtable to kind of go off of. I think it was KP maybe that asked about production planning, but I think there's so much.
Yeah, that had come in earlier when someone registered about production planning. And I think, yeah, that's a really good consideration. And we had talked about, I mean, there's so many other things too with thinking about disaster preparedness, thinking about navigating your, like the different markets, even just, I think CSA burnout being such a real thing that happens at scale. And, to what point do you want to be at the 100 mark? And does that make sense for everybody? So yeah, I think there's so many great ways to go with it. I wanted to remind everyone that we'll be having, ASAP's having the Business of Farming Conference, where we will have another CSA conversation there. So we can keep this conversation going. It'll piggyback off of what we talked today and kind of get more into the weeds of that. And then we will have another, after the conference, we'll have another roundtable sometime in the summer and kind of touch base with folks about where they're at in the summer. And then, of course, we have the CSA fairs coming up. So if you're in Henderson County or Buncombe County, we have CSA fairs coming up for that. If you have drop-offs in those locations. And our CSA guide is done. So the digital CSA guide is available on the website now if y'all want to share that with folks. And then hit us up if you want some printed copies. So we'll have them at the CSA fairs, of course. We'll have them at the Business of Farming Conference, but we can get you some too. Because in addition to like Nathan showing off that sweet rack card, the CSA guide is also like another easy thing that you didn't have to do anything for. And you can just be like, hey, and this is it. And it's got really good information about what a CSA is. So it's also a good education tool for folks. So definitely pick up some CSA guides. Y'all deserve it. And then we're always here, you know, for anything you want to touch base on. Let us know how we can help you out. I'm going to drop in here a quick 2-minute survey that ASAP is making me pass on to you about our roundtable today. But it also has in there a good part of what you want to talk about next. So go ahead and fill that out because we can use that to see what we want to do for the next roundtable. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. I'm going to go find out what my daughter got into while I was sitting here.
Thanks for
Bye, guys.
facilitating.
Thanks, Larissa.
Yeah, thanks
Thanks,
y'all.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.